Circles are an efficient way to get things rolling. Circles are a symbol of inclusion that allow us authentic communication. When we're in a circle, we magically discover that everyone is a right fit for each other. It's smooth and safe, with no hard corners. Circles are like the cycles of life. Wheels are circles that move us. Balls are circles that bring us together to play games. The iris of our eyes are the portals, the circle portals to our hearts. Our earth is the circle that supports our very existence. Everywhere we find circles that hold us and bond us.
I'm Cierra. I'm from Inner Child Circle, and I coordinated this circle upon Kyriel's idea, which is a lot of what I do. Is I get ideas from my mom and my sisters, and I figure out how to get them rolling, and I love it.
Hi, everybody. My name is Karen Trelor, and I have the huge privilege of having 3 daughters that are in my inner circle. And I am affiliated also with the Inner Child Circle, which is a great healing place where we gather and rescue our little inner selves. I'm glad to be here today.
All right, so I'm Kyriel. Super happy to be here. I love all of the circles that you created. I'm a huge fan of the sacred places that are created, and that I love you all, and I'm happy to be in this circle today, in this moment, in this new year. I love this. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I am also with Inner Child Circle. I am also equally delighted to be here. There is almost nothing better than getting a circle of beautiful, right time, right place individuals, and making magic. Some of the most beautiful things happen in circles. I am certified in holding healing circles, meditations, ceremonies, mindfulness. My favorite trauma healing modalities are through movement. I love inner child circles and catharsis. Pretty much the core of everything that I do is bringing people together. So this is a beautiful opportunity.
Hello, I'm Sandrine. I'm a French woman raising 4 daughters here in the US. I enjoy life with its I like to find beauty in simple pleasures and connecting with nature, and most of all connecting with other women. And I got to find that via circle, inner circle, and women's circle. So I'm excited to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Sarah. And Sarah will be our timekeeper today. Thank you for helping us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I absolutely, well, first I'm Sarah. I'm in the Arctic region called South Dakota right now. So today it warms my heart to gather with all of you in a virtual circle, but energy knows no bounds, of course. My business is known as Ouroboros Consulting. It's a circular shape. It's a snake eating its tail, which represents what I love doing, is connecting people. And oh gosh, how do I follow you guys? Everything you said, I agree with. Connecting in a circle is beautiful, and that would be my favorite thing this last year, was partaking, leading, acting as timekeeper, which I'm going to do today, and just kind of explain, kind of as a segue into what you will take over next year. Basically, a timekeeper is a person. It can be a different person each time. And today it's about creating an intention that reminds everyone that there's a timeline. speaking with purpose and power from the heart. It's the sacredness of holding a sort of a container, because when energetic people get together, we tend to go into, I call them quantum portals. We basically go down a rabbit hole and 8 hours are gone when it feels like 90 minutes. So timekeeper comes in to hold a certain time frame. So as all of us are speaking, including myself, if we start to feel like we go off on a tangent, I just remember sacredness of the container. Choose your thoughts before you speak. If for some reason as timekeeper I need to interrupt, I will just, make a funny face, get you to laugh, and then ask you to come back to center. I don't foresee that happening, but just in case we go down a rabbit hole, I'm here to bring us back to center. And the time frame you gave was about 60 to 70 minutes, and that's what we'll do.
Amazing. Super duper. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll just get straight into questions, and I'll direct this first question towards Sarah. What is going on mechanically in a circle? How do all of our human design energy blueprints balance and interact?
Well, I haven't seen the proverbial charts. So I see your beautiful human form. But what is fun is each of us, what's nice about a circle is when we gather in a group and you're all sitting within 3 feet of each other, literally the auras are interacting. So you come in as a sovereign being and you're in a circle of, let's say, 13 people. Basically, the minute you're sitting next to someone is your aura connects and it reverberates around the room. It's really cool to watch if you see that kind of thing. So someone who reads auras, you can really see that. But what human design does is it really tries to get people to understand their own individuality and be self-empowered, because what can also happen mechanically when you get in a circle, and I'm sure all of you have experienced this, let's say you're happy and you go to a meeting at work. I'm going to pick the word work because that'll initiate a thought in your head of, ugh, hopefully. Or if you love your job, you go to work and let's say the person leading the group is angry. And then you wonder why the whole group has been affected. That's the power and the mechanics of a circle. So if you go to something with inner child circle, you automatically know by watching all of you that you're going to go into a safe environment because I feel your energy. And so that's what people will know when they go, what they're going to expect to experience. Their aura could go in frazzled. They get in your aura and you immediately soothe them. That's the mechanics of human design. And you can actually see it. That's the fun part, is your soul, you get to see it on paper. That's the best way I describe it. Is human design is kind of like your soul blueprint. To me, it shows a human form. Astrology is a bunch of zigzag gibberish. But I still love astrology. I'm not knocking astrology. But that's what a group does, is it can affect people, affects your aura mechanically. And then literally when you hear people talk about becoming one, when you've been in your circles and you're the leader and you set an intention, you're basically helping everyone to become one with that intention just by sitting next to them. And the circle is like a wheel. Center, all of the hearts are facing the center. So all of that heart-centered energy gets focused in the center. That's why circles are powerful. Does that make sense? I hope. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on the mechanics of a circle versus an individual? And I can give more examples, but I'd like to ask you guys.
Sarah, I'm really, really intrigued about the combining of the auras and how that works together. Do you have an example of like something to illustrate? Maybe a lived example?
Oh, definitely. So I'll use myself as an example. I have energy in my chart that is very much, I call myself a stress or a crisis defibrillator. And so in my former work in nursing, what I would do is I would be what they call a de-escalator. So the energy that I carry, as long as I'm calm and collected and I go into a crisis situation, that energy creates, it's like a butterfly effect. It basically causes other people to be calm. And so especially another example would be when we gather in circles as timekeeper, I have the intention that I carry in my soul and my aura to hold the sacredness. So when I'm present, but the minute I step away from the circle, that can break it, and you can actually watch it happen behaviorally. It's almost like the sacredness of the container is broken. I'm not saying that I'm carrying the sacredness, but I'm carrying the intention. And by being in other people's auras, it's literally you watch it go in a circle. The minute we open circle, set the intentions, you watch it go through each person. I can see that stuff. I wish I could have you see my brain, basically. But does that make sense? Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you think of your energy and what your specialty is, let's say love. I see all of you ladies in Inner Child Circle as carrying this deep embodiment of love. The minute you guys step into someone's aura, they feel loved and seen. That's how much being in someone else's aura can affect you. Just like I'm sure you can feel if someone is sad, you can feel if someone is upset, and maybe in the past you used to think it was you. It's actually being in someone else's aura. The two auras basically merge together while you're together, but when you separate, the auras actually are not permanently stuck together. Does that make sense? It's sort of like water. The molecules come together and then they break apart the minute you're 6 feet away.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much. I want to take time to say thank you for that beautiful, beautiful compliment. That was deep gratitude for that acknowledgement, and thank you.
You're welcome. But yeah, a circle is amazing. That's why our ancestors gathered in circles. Does anybody else have any other questions, just so we can make sure everyone has a chance to talk?
I have a question regarding the energy flow. Is it something that can be adversely affected by trauma?
Yes. When you work with individuals, I'm sure if you think of the last time you worked with someone that had trauma, I'm pretty 100% certain you could feel their trauma. And because you come from a place of love and you're standing next to that person, even just being in someone's aura that loves and sees them, we don't always have to talk. But as humans, the talking part is sort of the catharsis, because if you haven't been seen or heard, but just the beauty of you or Kyriel or Cierra or anyone else, Sabine, whenever you're coming from a place of love and you're next to somebody, just being in their aura, they can feel what love feels like. That's the best example, is love, because that's the highest goal, isn't it? but that's what auras do. Is your aura basically is 6 feet. It transmits everything about you. You can't hide it. You can try, but it comes off as what I call static. Does that answer your question, Karen?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
It reminds me of the quote, like, people won't remember what you did or what you did for them, but they will remember how you made them feel. And it's so true. Like, the simple presence, if you have a calming presence, they will remember that.
Mm-hmm. Especially in a circle type, it's feeling that safeness, knowing there's a strong leader, because it is the leader. If you picture an umbrella, all of you leading your circles, the reason you clear yourself before you go in the circle is so you don't transmit that to someone, because it can, the trauma that Karen talked about, and I'm sure you would agree, is it's sort of like, even beneath human consciousness, our auras are talking, but we have to bring it to the surface to talk about. But even they know that if they feel safe with you, they come back, and more healing happens just by being in a circle. I mean, how cool is that? That's powerful. More than words, like you said, it's how did you make them feel? That's huge.
I'm curious, when it goes beyond 6 feet away, I still do feel some people sometimes. And is that like an agreement we made?
No, it's sort of, I call it the hangover. So that when you get to know your blueprint, it helps you recognize where you're under the influence of other people's energy, for example. And that's a really good way to look at it, is sometimes you're still feeling them. It's kind of like a hangover. It's not a cord, but it doesn't hurt to clear it, if that makes sense. When you're still feeling something, you're like, is that mine? No, it's a good reason to clear the energy. Otherwise, what'll happen over time is you start to think and think about it and then take it on as your own. That's when they call energy getting stuck. I call it pooling, because I don't like to think of something as ever being stuck. It's energy that pools, and you start to take it on as your own. And I see it as this little like tornado in an energy vortex would be a good example. Then you just have to say, that's not mine, and do the energy clearing that you know best that works for you, because it's not yours. That's the other part of when energies come together. What's helpful with what I feel with human design is when you see a picture of your soul on paper, you're like, oh, okay, that's what it looks like. Anytime you see something that isn't colored in, anytime you go in someone else's aura, what'll happen is the other person's energy will fill that. So then you think about the toxic filling and you think about satisfying filling. That's when you go in with love, you're filling someone else with love. But the reverse can also happen, because we live on Earth in a polarity. So you don't want to ever take on energy. You don't want to pool on energy that's not yours. And a lot of times I think humans think that someone's cursed us or someone has a cord. It's a lot of times energy that's just, there can be hooks, I call it. Does that make sense? So you can think about someone who they're thinking about you. So thoughts create energy and connections. They were probably thinking about you, thinking, wow, I felt so good when I was around her. I'm going to think about her. But that's energy. So you want to clear that unless you want to think about that person. So if it's positive, go ahead and think about it. If it's a negative, clear that stuff. But it helps to know you, so that when you go into a circle, you're bringing the best of you. And then you're also recognizing, oh, that heaviness is not mine. What can I do? Just be you. That's the best thing you can do. But human design, the blueprint is helpful in the fact that it shows us, when you go into a circle, what potential energy can you take on? What potential energy can you feel? And I know your chart, you have a lot of things where you're transmitting. So we transmit energy and we take in energy. So if something knocks you off course, it's mostly not yours. Most of the time when you go into a circle environment. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question, I hope?
Yeah, that's super clarifying. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Yep.
Sarah, I want to second Kyriel and say thank you for sharing that, because I've been facilitating Women's Circle for a couple of years now, but I've never really thought about it in an energetical level, and it's so fascinating. Like, I know it's happening even though I don't have conscious of it, but it's the way you explain it was very helpful and eye-opening, and I'm sure like I'm not gonna see my circle the same way now. So much. It's very, very eye-opening and fascinating.
Sandrine, I wanna say the same thing. I can't wait for the next time I open a circle to point it out. Be like, can you feel our auras blending together to make this beautiful, whatever word comes out, maybe rainbow or powerful pool of energy? Because it's something that we can feel. I've never had those words for it. I can't wait to point it out. Thank you.
Yay. I'm so excited because yes, you're the hub of the wheel. So you go in and imagine the beauty of that. And you think of our ancestors gathering in, they would usually sit in circles around what? A fire, food, the circle, and what was at the center. And, they knew the power of in our modern day, we call it the power of positivity and mindfulness, but just they gathered because they enjoyed it. And so guess what gets created more in the middle of the circle? If there's enjoyment, it's like this dance. There's the center, it keeps going out to everybody. So everybody's feelings keep being felt. So How cool is that? Ah, I could show you what the six of us looked like together on paper, but it is interesting because the auras come together, but you're not locked, but the feeling locks things in, like the feeling gets locked. So then there's this draw to come back with circles, but you can see it on paper if any of you want to nerd out with that information.
I'll make that picture the podcast picture.
Yep. They haven't made software that you can have more than 5 people right now, but in a small group of 5, it's good to know what it's going to look like because you can see power struggles and avoid the power struggle. Yeah. Relationships. You can see the dynamics of relationships, but let's be real, you still want to live as yourself. You don't want a piece of paper dictating you. So I never say use it as a hard and fast. But anyways, I feel timekeeper says move on to you to lead into the next.
Oh, thank you. The next question is, how do you start your circle? This is for everyone. How do you convey that this circle is different than a chat group?
I'll go real quick unless someone else. So the kind of the layout is people come and it starts out as sort of a proverbial chat group, but we always have an intentional sound, or we make a statement. We'll say we have usually a chime. I have 2 circles that I run in different regions. One is a chime. Another one is just, hey, everybody, let's gather. And then we make an actual circle. But prior to that, we make sure there's some smoke clearing. I forgot to add that part. There's a smoke clearing, but there's also a verbal intentional clearing. But sound is voice or actual tool.
Yeah, second you, Sarah, for the circle I facilitate, I start with an altar at the center. So wherever I do it, whether it's in a park or at home or in a church, wherever the place, I always bring a little table and a candle and a talking piece too. So because it's different than a social gathering where everybody talks at the same time. Sometimes we interrupt each other and we don't really listen. So there are, I think, to avoid this and really make it a sacred time together, there are some agreements that we have to go through at the beginning to make sure everyone is on the same page. So once the altar is ready, like I put some chairs or seats all around, and I make sure that every chair is at the same distance than as the altar. So like you see that every woman on the chair, on her chair is different from one another, but we are all at the same distance from the altar. And that's what I love about circle, is that we are all different, but we are all facing the light and the sacredness, and it's really beautiful.
I can piggyback on all of that. I typically, when we're coming together for a circle, everybody's arriving with a defined goal. So we know why we're gathering, which I think really helps. And also setting the space, like Sandrine mentioned, is kind of like we have the intention already, and then when people arrive, they can see it visually and feel it with the aura stuff that Sarah was talking about. So all of those things working together. Sometimes there's, when we come together, it's just the circle is already starting to form before you even really do anything. It's really magical and wonderful. But then also doing the ritual things can feel really wonderful, like the saging or lighting incense, or the talking stick feels really good too. But I guess the thing that I'm adding is having the intention set, having the people come ready for this circle, having the circle prepared, so that it physically looks magical, I guess, is all part of it. Oh, and one other thing, when I was thinking about this question last night, there's been a few times that I haven't had I typically hold circles in my own house, in my own space. And there's been times when I just haven't had them ready yet. Things happen and people are showing up before I have it all staged. And honestly, those have been some of my favorite, because people come in and then all of a sudden they're helping, and it's this collaborative, beautiful thing where it didn't end up the way I would have done it, but it ended up so much more beautifully because, people just effortlessly and without asking collaborated. And sometimes I kind of do that on purpose a little bit. I'll leave some things unfinished when people come, and people will kind of just naturally really finish them. I love it. I love circles.
I'm going to piggyback on what Rachel said. I always have like a structured template. What Sabine said as far as intentions, I call them sacred agreements. But I do that so that magic can happen. It doesn't mean it's just sort of like creating that sacred container, like Rachel said. It's not about it being that everything is in its perfect spot or anything like that. It's sort of just like having this mental, visual representation of what the hope will be, but it's not like the end result. It's always the end result is to be magic, gathering, connection. That's always, if I didn't have a structure, but the structure is there so that people can feel it. It's kind of like the walls of a house in a way, but what happens inside the house is what the people bring. And I love how you said it, Rachel. It's just that, yeah, you can think about setting it up so perfect, but that's not the point. It is just letting the magic happen. I love how you said that.
I would like to say, as a participant in these circles, once I energetically commit to coming to these circles, I start feeling that intention before you even do all of that. So you can start feeling that sacred call in my perception before, once I commit energetically to joining one of your circles. And I'm already preparing, like, energetically to be available and open for that.
True. I notice that the words that we use when we tell somebody we're doing a circle are really important.
Definitely, because it's about, I don't know if you'd like words, but these are the words I usually just use to describe it: is authentic, safety, trust, caring, connection, heartfelt listening, and communication, and vulnerability. And that's why we have the proverbial sacred agreement, so people know they're coming in. And then, my energy as the sort of de-escalator, crisis intervention specialist. If they hear that from me, I know that comes, it's projected well. But yeah, and then the intention setting, like the structure, the theme of the circle. I don't know, those of you that host your circles, do you tend to ask your individuals what they'd like to learn, or do you is it okay if I ask that, Kyriel? Sierra, Kyriel, I'm morphing you girls together. Your voices until I see your faces. But do you guys usually pick the topic, or do you kind of put it out as a vote?
Personally, I like to, it kind of depends of, right now I have two different circles. One small with the same woman, like we've been meeting for 2 years now, and we are 9 of us. And, so we know everyone, and it's the same person every time. And, with this group, I like to use, I have, oracle cards or deck. I actually brought a couple of them. And just a few hours before the circle, I will just meditate a little bit and pick a card. And this card like is the theme of the circle. So I will use sometimes drawings or but I have a support usually that I present at the beginning of the circle, and then we can elaborate around that. But if someone is really like in distress or feel very like agitated because something happened in their life, of course we're gonna make like time and offer the space here to process that together. But yeah.
I love that drawing an oracle card to set the theme. I was just gonna say that we have always brought like some sort of agenda into our circles. But I like the idea of doing one without an agenda and just like setting it at the beginning or with an oracle card.
How do you guys in Inner Child Circle, how do you guys start your circle or bring people to focus?
I typically and I can say we typically come up. It usually starts with a thought. It starts with we're communicating, something happened, somebody somewhere out of the four of us had a thought, and we bring it to each other and let the thought grow, and then whatever that theme is, that's what the circle is. Movement, meditation, pendulums, whatever we're doing, we always meet in a circle. But it does always start with an agenda. The idea of letting the topic be spontaneous is really intriguing. I'm loving that idea. That's not, especially with people, with a kind of a core safe group, and even not even allowing new energies in sounds exciting too. But thank you for sharing that, Sandrine. The question was how we prepare physically, right? Our physical space. Yep. Okay. Since I usually hold them in my home, I usually clean. And it's almost like a different kind of clean from just the regular clean. It feels really intentional. It feels that's kind of when I start preparing mentally too, is when I clean my space. And then I do a lot of the things everyone else mentioned, the saging, or sometimes I spritz water with essential oils to clean the energy, and it smells nice. I like to put incense outside of my door. I have a little patio, and I have a table on my patio, and I'll put incense out there so people walk through the incense when they come in. This is something that I just do all of the time. I have a salt perimeter around my house to help with that. I know that anybody crossing the barrier, this protective energy barrier around my house is here with good intentions and love. So I can greet anybody coming in, even if I don't know them, with the same good intentions and love. My circles are typically on my floor, so I like to put down pillows or blankets for people to sit on, and it's centered usually around an altar. And depending on what we're doing, I'll ask people to bring personal altar items that they can add to the altar. That's really nice. And then the other thing that I do to prepare physically is I always have some type of food available. because there's just something really beautiful about closing a circle and then going to the kitchen and eating together. It feels really good. And the food, this is just, I don't have any diet restrictions, but the food that I prepare for circles is usually vegan and gluten-free because it's the most inclusive. I know that m most people, if it's gluten and vegan, gluten-free and vegan, I'll have something for most everybody.
There is so before when I moved to Sioux Falls, I said I didn't find a woman's circle when I started my own, but it's not quite true actually. I found one, and the first one I attended, they did the opposite. That we were meeting from 6 to 7 for dinner, so it was a potluck style. Everybody was bringing something, so it was very social around the table. And then from 7 to 9, we were starting the circle where it was more sacred. But I like how, like, to do it maybe after, it would be a very different energy, I'm sure. So again, another thing to try and experiment with. Thank you, Rachel.
Eating's actually a very grounding process, Rachel. If you didn't know that, food can ground people. I love that you do the vegan and gluten-free.
Cool. All right, I'm going to transition into the next question, which is at the start directed toward Sandrine, and then we'll open it up to everyone. It's about some of the benefits of having a circle. So, Sandrine, in the materials you sent me, in preparation for this podcast, you mentioned that a circle helps us shift from head to heart thinking. Can you paint a picture for us on how this shows up?
It's something I keep practicing because it's very hard for me. So for me, head thinking is like using my brain in the words. I've always been struggling with words, like especially as an immigrant here in the US, and French is my native language. So trying to do this work in a different language is not easy. And so I try to force myself to shift from my head to my heart. And I will oftentimes just put a hand on my heart and try to feel in my body what is it that is like maybe a tension, or what sensation I'm feeling, and trying to start from that. Of course, I will at some point use my words, but I try to really start from my body, and where is it, and what does it feel like, and then try to think with my head. But it's not easy to do, and especially like the day to day now is so stressful and busy. Like that's why at the beginning of a circle, I like to get centered and grounded and do maybe a few minutes of silent meditation. And oftentimes I got a couple of times where people said that was the favorite part of the circle, because they didn't get to do that on their own. They don't make the time for that. And just like being able to, okay, letting go of everything and being present and get centered and feel in your body. It's for a lot of people, it's hard, and we offer that opportunity for them to do that. I don't know if I answered correctly, but.
Yes, I love that. And we loved it so much that we had a meeting with all the people that we went on the retreat with, an inner child circle meeting, and we ended with that 5 minutes of silence, which was cool because it was really nice too to end that way. But yeah, that is a really good way to get from the head to the heart and super into the body. Okay, so now for everyone, what are some of the benefits of having a circle?
I'll go. Oh my gosh, there are so many benefits. You know, the obvious benefits are gathering, I guess I call it sharing energy, being with so much wisdom in a circle. Just because someone who leads and facilitates, most of the wisdom comes from the people in the group. And there's actually a really cool thing that happens. And so my medical background is going to blend in here. So if I say a word that doesn't make sense, let me know. There's this thing that happens when you gather, when all of the auras are together, all of the energy is together, and everybody you've opened the circle, you've become intentional, you know the rules, I guess we'll call it, is to be heartfelt, and Sabine said putting your hand on your heart. That's one thing we try to do in different variations. But actually it's meditative. There's something that happens, our brains get into this alpha state when you're simply in a group of individuals that are having this willingness to be heart-centered. So there's these alpha brain waves. That's the whole goal of meditation, but sometimes meditation works better in a group. So stress relief, I think you did note that. Definitely stress relief, connectedness, vulnerability through intimate conversations, and just being heard. I would say that is probably my primary role in most circles, is to listen. My energy projects that, is that I will listen, and people tell me stuff, like even not in a circle, people tell me their deep, dark secrets for some reason, because I get to be that compassionate listener. But compassionate listening, heartfelt connection would be the biggest benefit. And then the medical stuff, stress relief, alpha state, all that.
I will second the like, you build very compassionate presence in the active listening, like, because of the agreement is like, we are not here to give advice or for anyone in the circle. Like, we are not here to interrupt and judge, or so it's a practice. It's not easy to do. And the more circle you participate in, the more you got to build those skills of like active listening. It's really not easy when you really think about what it is. It's we don't have, in the day-to-day, we don't have the capacity to do that. So it's very special.
I'd like to comment on that too, because you mentioned ease. What I do find that's easy in circles is sometimes, like, I'm thinking of like a thought that's about to come out or like whatever, and then somebody else says it in the words that like I needed, or I was thinking about a task that I was going to do, and then somebody else does it. There's this like group, like we're one body thing that offers a big sense of relief to my like very active like helper part of me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So many times I had like women from very different seasons of life and ages, and when we start talking like about a specific theme, you realize that that there are so many overlap, and at the end we all feel the same thing, and the struggles are the same, and that's how the connections is made. And it's just seeing those, like, oftentimes they are strangers at the beginning of the circle, they don't know each other, and then they found this, like, oh, I have that thing that happened to me in a similar way. I can really like feel what you are experiencing and understand, and then after the circle you see those connections happening, and people like wanted to get the contact info and just like keep touch. And it's when the circle is over, it's just the beginning of something else, like, that is also very magical.
I would like to make an observation after listening to all these incredibly insightful comments, is that I think a lot of what you speak to is unity. And part of my core belief is that we all came from one source, and we are all one, even though we're differentiated out into our own unique incarnated selves. And when we get into these circles, we are joining again and uniting and becoming one again. So it speaks to our inner selves, to our souls, and that it just feels right for all the beautiful reasons that you guys have just said.
I'm going to piggyback on that, Karen. It's definitely all about the unity. In studying our ancestors, modern, I like to bridge between the two. I know the key phrase or the hot phrase lately is this whole concept of 5D, but we're 5D living in 3D. And so what I find with circles is we move away from being isolated. I feel like all humans we go grocery shopping in isolation. We prepare food in isolation. I mean, even in a core family unit, usually there's one person who ends up. So that person who's feeling isolated comes to a circle and they get unified. They get to feel that I'm not alone. They can share their stories because, stories are ancestral. And I fully love how you explain that. I absolutely love it. And that's what is beautiful about getting together, is getting in other people's auras. And can you imagine if we could have circles that go shopping together, grocery shopping, food preparation? it would be strange.
Sarah, it's so funny you mentioned that. I actually wrote a book, not just about that, but I just wrote a book about trying to bring people back into the kitchen and cook together, because it's, especially here in the US, it's something that we are losing, and it makes me so sad. And so if we could bring more awareness and connection and magic in the kitchen, that would be amazing.
Idea for you. I won't bring it up now, but yes, but our ancestors, it's only been in probably the last 50 years. But I know Europeans, by the way, I have an obsession with France, so I'm very excited that but yeah, we've spent a lot of we've been isolated a lot, and not just because it's just been happening since post World War II in America specifically, probably early 20th century with the industrial age. Yeah. But let's bring it back. Let's blend the best of both worlds. Let's make 5D and 3D 8D because it's the infinity symbol. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yes.
Sounds good. But I know you have more things. So as timekeeper, I'm going to bring it back to you, Cierra, to keep us in line with questions.
Okay.
Do you mind if I share one quick story about the benefits of being in a circle? It's pretty short.
By all means.
Okay. This is a story that I love to share, and I love to share it in like before we're about to do something really vulnerable in a circle. So this was a circle that I wasn't leading. I was just participating in. It was like a catharsis circle where we were getting together to scream. And we knew this as we entered the circle. It was a group of probably 12 women, and we knew what we were doing. We knew why we were gathering, and no one wanted to start. And the pressure was kind of building, and in the anticipation, and it was getting kind of awkward. And then all of a sudden, my friend Shania lets out this just primal, the most vulnerable, like half scream, half sob at the same time. And her leading by example, her being so brave and so vulnerable at the same time in this public circle. I get kind of choked up when I remember it. Like, her leading let us all just dive into the experience and explode into the experience. And her taking that first step just made this most, it was like she gave us permission to be wild and permission to be all of these emotions that come out in a scream or a sob or whatever needed to come out in that moment. And it's such an illustration of what can happen in a circle, in not just a catharsis circle, in any way. Somebody shows up doing something authentic, and it's admirable, and it almost gives everyone else in the circle permission to do something similar, to be authentic in a similar way. And there's so many things that I love about circles. I could talk about them forever, but that leading by authenticity and expanding people's horizons is one of my favorites. Thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you for sharing that, Rachel. I felt super, super deep and emotional. And I think too, when we are in these circles, we are allowed those deeper depths of emotion, and we are shown that others carry those as well. And we are allowed to experience that together and not kind of hide it away, like that deep, deep, so many of us are screaming, sobbing on the outs or the inside, and we are happy and bubbly on the outside. But as we know, emotions can exist all together, all at the same time. And as a human experiencing our human body, and as Sarah says that I love so much, our meat suit, we are a soul in our meat suit, and to feel those and express those is such a gift. And I just really, really love that awareness that, and leaders go first, and being the leader of the circle, they are oftentimes asked to be vulnerable, to go first, to put yourself in a situation to inspire. And it is a beautiful gift and a responsibility at the same time. So thank you. Quick thank you to all the leaders of circles out there willing to go first for us to be able to experience those depths of emotions together.
Kyriel, I don't know if you remember that, but during the last circle we attended together, it was the last circle of the year, and I chose for that circle to, I wanted to celebrate all the wins that we had and that we don't get to celebrate. We just go from one thing to another, but we don't pause and celebrate that. And as we started the circle, it was pretty quiet. We didn't lots of silence, and people didn't know how to basically, it wasn't bragging. It was just honoring what we did. And, Kyriel was the one who stepped up and did just that. And right after her expressing all her accomplishments and all her victories, everybody started to warm up, and you could tell their voices was I don't know, there was some joy, and they were braver, and they felt okay, I can do that too. And it was just beautiful how I was the facilitator, but I didn't do it. It's not necessarily the facilitator who will do that, but Kyriel, I will always remember it was just beautiful how you started it, and it just gave permission for the other participants to do the same. And at the end, everybody was cheering on each other, and it was just so precious. So I just wanted to bring that example because it was just precious.
And I want to point out the emotion that I feel when I remember these things, and the emotion that I felt you share, Sandrine, recounting that story. The act of inspiring, or the act of being inspired, to me, it's one of the fastest ways to fall in love with make really, really deep connections with someone. It's just so beautiful.
That's cool. Fall in love is one of the benefits of a circle.
And thank you, Sandrine, for that compliment. I deeply, deeply appreciate that. And I accept that. Thank you.
Yeah. And I was there too, and I feel effervescent now and really grateful. Just the memory of that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yay. Uh so I'm curious, what impact has hosting a circle, has facilitating a circle had on your life?
I think for me, it really helped me got out of my shell. Like actually creating a circle was one of the first thing I did when I moved to Sioux Falls 3 years ago. I just thrive on having a really like a strong community around me, and I don't do well in like small talks and social gatherings with lots of people. Like it's not my thing. And so I was very intentional when we moved here to find that and create that. And it was, I didn't know any groups like that when I moved. So I decided to create my own. It was a very selfish act at first, but then when I saw how the impact it had on other women and how they were um, um, demanding and they wanted that for themselves too. And it just keeps me doing it, even though it's really hard for me to be the facilitator, as I don't position myself as a leader. It's really, really hard. Every circle I have to really, it takes a lot of me to step up and do it. But I still do it no matter what. So yeah.
It's such a level up in every way. I feel like there's, you don't have to have any skills whatsoever to start a circle, but doing them, you learn so much. It's like a combination of leadership and um, creativity and public speaking, vulnerability. There's just so many skills, like very hard, fast skills that are transferable to every other part of your life, that you get better at when so I want to stress this. You don't need them to start. You don't already have to have them. But once you do start, all of a sudden I'll speak for myself. I'm doing things that I wasn't able to do before, and I'm doing them confidently and I'm doing them regularly. And it's just like I feel like I'm learning. Just I feel like I'm turning into a better person. There's a lot of skills that I build naturally without trying.
Cool. I can speak to that too. I've been working there's the naturally without trying skills, but there's also, when it comes to hosting a circle, the skills that I'm working on. Like this last circle I did, I was like, two of the things I'm working on is taking more initiative and asking questions. And I practice those within the circle, within this space where I get a lot of permission. And then we can go to the next question. How do you energetically prepare for a circle?
For me, like I said, like I like to have some quiet time before. For the circle that I know, if I know everybody and it's a small circle, it's very different than the one I'm facilitating on the full moon, because I never know who's gonna show up. So the energy of the group is different every time. But overall, I like to just take a couple of minutes to just sit down, close my eyes, and meditate a little bit. And I like my cards. Like sometimes I will just pick one card, and it's a good good reaffirmation, or that just I feel supported, and I feel like it's not about me. It's just I'm just like a vessel, and it's just like I'm here to facilitate. But then the magic happen, and drawing a card is always like a reassurance that the universe has my back and is helping me in that.
Sandrine, I really like that. About the universe having our back. One thing that I feel I like to do before joining a circle or even starting a circle is to call in the unseen support team that we have. I like to call in 4 archangels. I like to call in my guides, ancestors, and have them join in or cuddle around in our circle because their energy is important too. So I extend that invitation for others that are very, very powerful.
I want to say, Mom or Karen, because of that, that's rubbed off on me. The other night when I went to a New Year's Eve party, before I walked in the house, I called in the archangels, and I was like, "Please bless us with peace."
I would add, it just depends on the topic of the circle and where the circle's being hosted. The 2 places where the circles are hosted, the owners of the spaces have constant cleansing going on. But if I were to kind of encapsulate it into a statement for somebody listening, I would say it has to do with calling in, like Cierra and Karen said, and being intentional, which would include personal energetic boundaries. I summarize it as being grounded, being centered, and protected or shielded. That would be when you call in, universal help, because, hello, 3D, we need all the help we can get. So I guess I summarize it in those statements. Make sure you're grounded, make sure you're centered, cleared. But generally speaking, you kind of embody that over time. Most leaders in the circles do. So
I would like to add too, Sarah, I really, really love how you involve the people going to your circle. So, and there's some sort of accountability piece that you choose to do that really helps somebody feel seen. Because so many times when I show up to your circle, I have something with my name on it. And I mean, my name is different. My name is Kyriel. So getting something with your name on it for me is really just personally special. And so I'm just assuming out there that other people like to have something that was intentionally made or intended for them. And it just shows that like a level of care given to the circle beforehand in a physical way, not just the spiritual way. Well, I'm sure they're spiritually inspired.
Thank you, Kyriel. That is my heart, is to serve and help people be seen. It's something that, making sure the person is seen and loved when they leave. So yeah, definitely love doing that for everyone that comes. That's why I would say that if I didn't answer the impact part, but the impact would be pouring from a full cup, making sure that I share the blessings that have been bestowed, which are gifts. Your gifts are there to share with others. So your impact as a leader is sharing your gifts from a place of fullness. So if you can share the fullness, that's your impact.
Wow, cool. Okay, so how do we physically prepare for a circle?
You guys, I have a template structure just because that's me, because I don't want to think when I go. I just want to be there. So I'm a little bit of yang and yin, if you want to call it that. So the one place we have this beautiful ritual that we do, it's calling in the directions. It's so beautiful. And that is, it involves a drum every time. We do a drum before everybody arrives. Saging, we sage ourselves with whichever smoke. We use air, earth, fire, all of the elements to clear ourselves physically. So that way, if we, covering all the corners, elements, everything. But the one place and then the other place is more of a mental intentional, because we're air signs, so we can just think it and it's done. The other place, we embody earth a little more. But that just allows people to hear a variety to respond to which feels best for you. That's the most important thing. Physically prepare, but it comes back to, are you grounded? How do you get grounded? Are you centered? How do you do that physically? And then, you physically clear the space because you need to, you're on earth. And then, of course, setup of any tools that are involved in the actual circle. I know Sabine mentioned she sets up an altar. I'd love to hear more, but maybe she'll mention that when she answers.
Yeah, I love hearing it's all what you just shared. I don't necessarily do it, but I'm very curious, and I really want to experiment and try new things when we start the circle, and being physically prepared, all the cleansing, and it's something I do for myself, but I'd never thought about doing it for a circle. And so thank you for bringing that up. I think I'm gonna ask you probably more questions when it's done. And yeah, it's always fun to it's the first time we got to actually share with other people that does the same thing, and it's very, very empowering and very helpful. I'm so grateful. Yeah, for the altar, I just have, like I said, a candle that I like to lit to cast the circle at the beginning. And one of a dear friend made me this little woman in she crocheted it, and so I use it as my talking piece. I also have like a cedar infused little cushion. It's very I like to play with objects that people can grab when they feel inclined to speak. Yeah, the talking piece is very important to me. I really, it's a nice tool to make sure we are not interrupting each other, and that we respect the time that the person is talking. So,
Um, now I'd like to hand the reins over to Sandrine for our closing.
yeah, so we are not physically in a circle together, but I really feel with the conversation that we had, that the circle is here. And usually what I like to do is going around the circle with sharing our name and one takeaway from our conversation today. And then after that, we will just, if each one of you has any announcement or great things happening soon that we'd like to share, it will be the right time to do so.
I'll start. My name is Cierra, and one of my big takeaways is that circles give us permission.
I'll go ahead. My name is Karen, and my big takeaway for this is how when we get into a circle, our auras blend together. And I cannot actually see auras, but I can envision it in my mind, how that would make a beautiful rainbow. And I love that whole concept of our blending of energies, and just supports another reason for why circles work.
I'm gonna go. I'm Sandrine, and so many takeaways. It's hard to find just one. I I couldn't have thought about a better way to start this new year. During the last circle we had, one of the words I wanted to have was open. I really want to not being afraid of trying new things, and doing this podcast was one of those. It's my first time. I'm having it was so much fun to do that, and I'm grateful for that. And my takeaway really from the discussion we had is really how you started, Sarah, with bringing all the energy level of a circle, which I'd never really thought about before. So I'm so excited to dive into that more and be more mindful during the circle to maybe bring that up too, and see what's gonna do for the rest of the year. Thank you so much.
I'll go next, unless was that you, Kyriel, or Rachel? You go.
Okay, it was me, Kyriel. So I will say one of my big takeaways is that guttural need, that deep need for us as our human selves to connect in this way, and a deep gratitude for those of you who prepare and take the time and the energy to create these spaces for us, because it is such a full body experience, mental, physical, to be part of these circles. And it's a deep gift to be able to attend one of these circles. And a lot of times I feel like people just do this magic without taking the time to realize how the immense impact and physical desire, personal desire, that those of us that attend these circles, we get so much more than we even signed on for every time. So big thank you. And what's going on in my world, I would just say follow along on social medias. We have a website, because it is constantly changing and evolving for Inner Child Circle. And we are, whatever time you're listening to this podcast, we have something for you to connect, and we have something for you to experience. So thank you. Okay, go ahead, Sarah.
I apologize, Kyriel. No, I'm Sarah. My key takeaway is everything. I absolutely love everything we talked about today. I only happen to seem a little more, I guess, in the know of what I was talking about today, because I've been sitting at my desk analyzing stuff, because I'm in the middle of a giant rebrand, so I can serve my gifts and share my gifts better in the coming year. So if it seems like I knew how to answer, it's only because I've been sitting at my desk. So like Kyriel said, I'll piggyback on the social handles are always a good way to find out what's going on. I do have 2 circles coming up. One is in South Dakota, and that I will post on social handle. There's another one that will be in Sergeant Bluff, Iowa. They're both very unique in what we talk about, but we tend to ask people what they want to learn, but we also follow the cycles of nature, in that we seem to all go through something collectively each month. So that Thunderhawk Healing and Direction, there is a group page, Sacred Soul Alchemy, and then my business page is called Ouroboros Consulting. As of now, I am rebranding. And my website will be up soon. So if you hear about this, you can, hopefully there can be a link to each of our social handles, but I try to follow the cycles of nature, I guess, rather than, constant change. I like a little structure, but a lot of magic. So that would be the best way to see what's happening in my world. And thank you, ladies, very much, Inner Child Circle, for bringing this together and doing what you do and sharing your gifts as well.
And I think I'm the last one. I'm Rachel. I have a lot of the same takeaways as everyone else. A lot of it, I think, is for me boiling down to experimentation. I can't wait to go back and take all of these new ideas and bring them into the circle. Yeah.
Amazing. Go team. I'm grateful for everybody. Sandrine, do you have anything to say in closing?
No, I forgot to mention, like, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, there is a women's circle that meets on every full moon of the year. It's from 7 to 9 p.m. and the location depends on the weather and the availability of everyone. But yeah, it's open to any woman. And yeah, I just encourage you to come and show up.
All right. Thanks everybody for showing up here. This circle has all the goodies that we talked about, and I'm grateful. That's all. That's all for this podcast. Signing out. We love us.
We love us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, everybody.
It was awesome. Bye-bye.